Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to a relaxing Sunday edition of the DCEU Daily, the only YouTuber that gets away doing his videos with a cheap Lenovo tablet, but also the only YouTuber who doesn't think that the sun comes pouring out of his or her, or however they identify it as, backside. So welcome. Yes, WB, Warner Brothers Pictures, AT&T are very confident about the Batman. They're very confident about its financial and awards potential, because anyone who's seen this film, including myself, knows why this studio is extremely confident about this film. They've already allowed multiple members of their staff over at WB to see this film. These are clues that they've always been confident about Matt Reeves and this movie. That's why they gave him whatever he wanted. That's why they gave him his own Earth 2. But I think the big clue for me, and when I knew they were very confident about him and his plans, is when they gave him 2 or 3 HBO Max spin-offs. Now, we know there's more to come than just 2 or 3 HBO Max spin-offs. There's more Batman movies to come, but there's a lot more than that, as we've discussed on this very channel before. He and his people and other huge creatives that he knows, like J.J. Abrams, etc., will be involved in developing other DC characters in this DC Earth 2. Very exciting. So WB are extremely excited and confident about the Batman. We know it's going to premiere at a very illustrious, I think, European movie house, cinema. I think it's in France, or it may not be in Europe, I can't remember now. But this is the kind of place where WB launch movies that they're very, very confident about. Not necessarily just in terms of box office. Of course, we've heard the projections and they're huge. And I said to you on yesterday's DCEU Daily, they're going to make more money on the opening domestic weekend than they're projecting. They always underscore what they think they're going to make, and quite right too. They expect to do extremely well and break a multitude of records with the opening domestic weekend of the Batman. Here's a kind of, let's compare Disney and WB. WB make art and Disney make lots of money. You can tell the difference between the MCU and DC live action movies. A lot of them are art house movies. Man of Steel is a Superman art house movie. BVS is a Batman and Superman art house movie. The Snyder Cut is a Justice League art house movie. The Joker is a Joker art house movie. I think I'd rather stick with a studio that produces art rather than just wanting to make money. And I've given you this comparison before as well with The Matrix 4. The Matrix 4 isn't my cup of tea, but I do respect them for allowing Lana to make whatever crap she wanted. It was her vision. She was allowed to do it, and it may have not worked for them financially, although I think it gave HBO Max a huge uplift, which is really cool for the studio and the new streamer. But it's about quality versus quantity when you compare Disney and WB. And Disney shills always show off about how much money. For example, Spider-Man No Way Home is making, a film I'm going to go and see today, and I'm very excited to go and see because I'm a huge Spider-Man fan. Of course I am. I've been a Spider-Man stan ever since I first saw the animated series Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. To me, that's the best piece of animation that Spidey's ever been in. Not in terms of hardcore, high concept animation, but in terms of what they did with that animated series. But anyway, we're talking about DC. So they're very, very confident about the Batman. But why are they so confident about its financial potential and its awards potential? Because the Batman is a paradigm shift in comic book adaptations, in comic book movies, in movies in general. Because ultimately, although the Batman is a self-contained independent film about Batman, this is the beginning of a Batman extended universe, a new DC extended universe in a brand new Earth. So you've heard Reeves and is it Dylan Clark or his producer or whatever his name is talk about how they didn't want Batman to be part of the DCEU Justice League. That's true, but at some point this Batman will have his own Justice League, will meet his own Superman, will meet, his own Wonder Woman, and characters that probably have never had a live action run before. This is what Matt Reeves is doing. Matt Reeves has already said that there's a lot to come from his Earth, and this is true. So it's not just about Batman. For now, they're going to get Batman's house in order, and that's right. There's no rush for Matt Reeves to extend the universe, of course not. But he is moulding a brand new DC Earth 2, and that's very exciting. So the Batman is a paradigm shift, but how is it a paradigm shift? Well, it's an interesting kind of perception that people have of the Batman. The Batman has been described as a horror movie, as a very dark movie. But it's not just those elements. It's not just those scenes. It is a dark movie. There is elements of horror in this movie at times. I will read an article from Screen Rant a little bit later on how they talk about that there are elements of humour in this film, and there is humour in the Batman. It's not MCU humour, there's not a lot of it, but all great Batman movies have always had elements of humour. Batman 89 had it, Batman Returns had it, even Nolan's trilogy had slight pieces of humour in it. The banter between Alfred, Michael Caine and Batman Christian Bale, there was a comedy element to it. But this film is a paradigm shift. It's a very different way to make a film because every character has their moment to shine, and that's an interesting element. It's about the action. The action is very different. It's shot very differently in this movie. Matt Reeves is a very unique filmmaker, but what's exciting people about Matt Reeves being involved in DC and Batman is that he's a very talented individual, but he's also a Batman fan and he's a DC fan. So he's a director who understands this world, and he doesn't want to deconstruct the DC universe. He wants to construct his own DC universe, and that's the difference here. You Marvel stans have got Kevin Feige, and good luck to you. We have now got Matt Reeves, a genius filmmaker, and that is the kind of the comparity, really. That's how you can compare it, where Disney are making lots of stuff to make money, and Warner Brothers are happy to say to a director, here's some money, make your thing. Now you can back about what Snyder went through, but ultimately now, Snyder's 3 DC movies are Snyder's 3 DC movies. No one interfered with those movies. Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, we've had umpteen versions of BVS already, right? And we've got the complete vision of Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. So they're there. Artists are allowed to make their movies. James Gunn would never have been allowed to make a film like The Suicide Squad for Kevin Feige, Disney and Marvel Studios. And probably, James Gunn has been the only, creative over at the MCU who's been allowed to mostly be uninterfered with in terms of his Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. But still, he still would have had to bend the knee a lot more than he did with Warner Brothers. He went on record and said he was surprised how free he was to do whatever he wants and kill whoever he wanted in the Suicide Squad. I still think it's a cop-out he didn't kill Harley, but that's just my opinion. Peacemaker, again, he was surprised that he was allowed to do whatever he wants. But obviously, they do knock on his door sometimes and give him notes, and he can take them, or he doesn't have to take them. But the point being that there's freedom over at DC. There's a multiverse being built, and that's very exciting. If you're a creative, you want to come to DC now. You want to work for Ann Sarnoff, Jim Lee and Walter Hamada, because they're going to give you an element of freedom that you will not get anywhere else. If you're making the Sonic movie, you don't have much freedom. Then again, how much artistic integrity do you want to make a Sonic movie, I suppose? But like the Marvel movies, there's not much freedom for the creatives. No matter what they say, they are not free. Kevin Feige is the showrunner, he's the storyteller, you direct the movie, and that's your role, no matter what they say. And so can I see the Batman being nominated for a multitude of Oscars and other, respected awards out there in the film community? Yes. Yes, this is another Joker movie moment where this film is going to be adored by critics that you don't normally see talk about, these type of comic book movies. There's going to be a lot of adulation from different corners of the industry, critical media, once they've seen this movie. Maybe some of them already have seen this movie. So this is a very exciting time if you are a DC fan, if you're a DC Comics fan, because this is a moment of celebration. Because when you get those situations when Warner Brothers are nervous about a DC movie, you don't like that when they're going back, reshooting a movie, cutting out elements of the director's vision. That's because they're worried about the audience's reaction. For example, one of the things I'm very excited about from the moment you guys can go out there and watch this film is the hot takes on social media, everyone's, kind of reaction to the movie, because that's an exciting thing, because everyone's going to have opinions on this version of Batman, of the Batman. Is it a controversial movie or isn't it a controversial movie? In terms of how he represents Batman, I think Batman stands who have been reading Batman in the comics will not be triggered. But there's going to be opinions about this film and how it's framed and how it ends. It's going to be very interesting to see people's reaction. So I'm very excited to get you, the consumer's reaction, because the Batman is a huge character and everyone has an opinion how Batman should be depicted. Some people are okay with Batman killing, but Batman stands are not happy with Batman killing. I can understand that at the end of the day, because Batman is a hero. And at the end of the day, some heroes are supposed to kill and some heroes are not supposed to kill. So we already know that in the Batman will not kill. Now, I didn't care that Affleck's Batman killed because he's basically an Elseworld Batman anyway. You see, he wasn't the Batman. So, and even, Pattinson isn't, if you like, the Batman. He's another version of Batman. So it's going to be very, very interesting what people make of this movie. But one thing's for sure, the studio are very confident and will continue to give Matt Reeves, in terms of his DC moulding and creation of this Earth 2, whatever he wants. The Batman concept art shows Bruce towering over a gritty Gotham City. The art of the Batman, an illustrated tie-in book accompanying Matt Reeves, the Batman shows concept art of Bruce towering over Gotham City by Josh Planisi of Screen Rant. The art of the Batman, an illustrated tie-in book accompanying Matt Reeves' The Batman, shows concept art of Bruce Wayne towering over Gotham City. Reeves' reboot starring Robert Pattinson's Caped Crusader is one of 2022's most anticipated films, following in the footsteps of Christopher Nolan's pre-DCEU trilogy. The Batman will introduce many new versions of well-known DC characters. In addition to Pattinson's Bruce Wayne Batman, the film stars Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle, Catwoman Colin Farrell as Oswald, Cobblepot Penguin, Jeffrey Wright as Lieutenant James Gordon, Andy Serkis as Alfred Pennyworth, John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, and Paul Dano as Edward Nashton Riddler. Inspired by comics like Batman Year One and The Long Halloween, the Batman finds its main character in his second year as a vigilante. As trailers and clips have made clear, Reeves' film is set to offer a unique, gritty take on the world's greatest detective and his respective genre. The art of the Batman's covers from DC shows... The art of the Batman's cover from DC shows Bruce watching over Gotham in concept art from his upcoming film. James Field's book is behind the scenes illustrated, The Batman Time, which becomes available on March the 15th. Put that in your diaries. A little over a week after the film hits theatres on March the 4th, 2022. Check it out below. So this is the picture they're talking about, and it is absolutely stunning. So I hope you can all see that. Yes, he's towering over Gotham. It's beautiful. I do love the red ink as well that they've been using for the Batman, for the posters and all of that. It's been great. But this is a great image, isn't it? From the makeshift gear and holes in his cape to the foreboding darkness of Gotham, the above art is indicative of the vibe Reeves has masterfully attached to the Batman, something overtly evident in promotional material alone. The image of Batman looming over his corrupt city is an iconic one, and the Batman is poised to sear a plethora of soon-to-be iconic images into the brains of audiences. The film's costume design, action sequences and cinematography lend credence to the idea that the Batman could feel like a comic book panel come to life. And that's what the film is, because the man is a comic book fan. And this is what we want to see from our comic book movies. Surely we want people who, you know, appreciate the art form of comics, because without comics, we wouldn't know Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and etc, etc. We've got to be respectful from where these characters stem from, surely. The Batman will focus on the corruption and lies at the heart of Gotham. The film's main villain, Riddler, is going around killing Gotham's elites and leaving clues for Batman, who's a part of this too. The serial killer's penchant for riddles will challenge Batman's detective skills, morality, and quite possibly everything he knows to be true. In the comics on the small screen, Riddler's love for puzzles has always extended to what he considers to be the biggest mystery of all, Batman's identity. In the Batman, Riddler knows Bruce Wayne is Batman. Furthermore, promos imply the Wayne family may have a history of political corruption. If the Battinson is going to survive the Batman, he's going to need an all-encompassing view of the city to put the dark in the dark night. So a very good article there talking about that piece of artwork, and this art book that they're releasing, I think on the 15th of March, make sure you buy it, because I'm certainly going to buy it, and we'll probably go through it here on the DCEU Daily. I will be doing live videos when the Batman releases, because I'm planning on buying some equipment so I'm able to do really cool looking live videos as well. So we're going to expand the channel, and once the Batman hits, you know, this channel will be even more Batman central than it already is, because I'm so excited for this year in DC live action. The Flash movie poster gives cartoonish look at Hero's new suit. Yeah, look at this, pretty cool. I love it, it looks brilliant. I love the costume already, but seeing it here for the Chinese New Year celebration, I think, is awesome. So, in celebration of Chinese Lunar New Year, WBDC released the Flash movie poster, which gives a cartoonish look at the Scarlet Speedster's new suit, by Josh Planisi again of Screen Rant. Now this goes to show this propaganda we're hearing that they don't know what they're doing is wrong, because the marketing they're doing this year for their live action content is fantastic. The Flash movie poster gives a cartoonish look at the Scarlet Speedster's new suit. Inspired by the beloved Flashpoint storyline, director Andy Muschietti's DC Extended Universe film will see Ezra Miller's Barry Allen navigate and in turn manipulate space and time, mimicking Marvel Studios' multiversal antics. No. The Flashpoint graphic novel by Jeff Johns has been around for years. The multiverse is something that DC Comics have always done better than Marvel. In fact, DC are more famous for Flashpoint and the multiverse, more famous for it than Marvel. So anyway, mimicking Marvel Studios, no we're not, multiversal antics via Spider-Man No Way Home, and the upcoming Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So now the Flash movies copying No Way Home and Doctor Strange. That's not true, that's bullshit, but never mind, you go with it, you little MCU fake shills. Warner Brothers DC films The Flash will feature alternate versions of iconic characters. Thanks to what is canonically known as the Speed Force, which was previously teased in Zack Snyder's Justice League, The Flash will crack open the DCEU's multiverse. The film is set to feature multiple versions of Barry Allen, Flash, as well as both Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton's Batman. It will also star Kiersey Clements as Iris West, Ron Livingston as Henry Allen, Maribel Verdú as Nora Allen, Ian Lowe as a younger Barry Allen, and Sasha Calle as Supergirl. Principal photography wrapped late last year, and the film is set to release in theatres on November the 4th of 2022. A red letter day for DC live action as the DC Extended Universe changes forever. On the Chinese social media site Weibo, DC recently unveiled posters for all their major upcoming films. The Flash's poster offers fans a hand-drawn look at Alan's new suit in the upcoming film. Check it out below. So this is it, and this is glorious. This is the full picture of it. I think it's amazing, but check out this costume. We've already seen the live action version in a little promo in last year's DC Fandom, but it looks like a great Flash costume, and I, for one, am very happy about it. But I'm sure there's people out there with hot takes who are not happy about it. I, for sure, am. Behind the Batman, The Flash is arguably DC's most anticipated film. Not only is it set to employ the ever-popular multiverse theory, but the film will likely reset the DCEU timeline in the Flashpoint storyline. Alan travels through time to undo the death of his mother, an action that completely overhauls the timeline, resulting in a world where Bruce died instead of Thomas, among other things. Near the end of the story, Alan travels back in time again to stop himself from saving his mother. While this does result in a better world, it also reboots the entire DC universe. With Affleck talking about it being his last Batman movie, but we already know that Ezra Miller is poking fun at that. That's interesting. And Keaton appearing in subsequent projects, The Flash is set to give the DCEU a soft reboot. What kind of reboot that is, we still don't know, but it's exciting to look forward to it, isn't it? The Flash could be the first step towards a new Justice League roster in the DCEU, with HBO Max's upcoming Batgirl movie and Calais' Supergirl debuting in The Flash. Rumours persist that those heroes will be replacing Batman and Superman, respectively. Now, Keaton, if the theory is right and Keaton is the new Batman in the DCEU, he will be part of the Justice League. Maybe even the new leader of the brand new Flashpoint Justice League, right? So there is a Batman there at least. But there will be a version of Superman there, that I can assure you. So, respectively, Keaton, who will also appear in Batgirl, will presumably serve as a mentor to new heroes. The above artwork, while focusing on the Flash, also features the Batman logo and Supergirl logo, further indicating how important their roles will be in the film. The Flash will have to masterfully juggle its characters in order to make its mark on the Junior's growing list of multiversal films. But again, it's DC that pretty much invented the multiversal strategy in their, paperback comic books. So this is not about copying Spider-Man No Way Home or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is about DC live action doing something brave, exciting and compelling, and I think it's awesome. The poster looks good, the costume looks good, and I'm very, very excited for this year. Just like with The Flash, Black Adam poster gives new look at Justice Society logos. DC teases the members of the Justice Society of America by including their logos in the new Black Adam poster art released in honour of the Lunar New Year by TC Phillips of Screen Rant. A new Black Adam poster released for the Chinese Lunar New Year gives fans a look at the logos for each of the members of the Justice Society of America. Scheduled for release in July this year, the highly anticipated DCEU film stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as the titular anti-hero, a predecessor to Shazam, Captain Marvel, and the first Wizards champion. Johnson's long-term producing partner Hiram Garcia has previously suggested that Black Adam's character was not going to be softened up for audiences, and his appearance in the DC Extended Universe promises a major shift in the balance of power going forward. Joining Johnson in his DC debut is an all-star cast who will make up the Golden Age superhero team, known as the Justice Society of America, or JSA. Created in the 1940s, the JSA was initially established as an alternate superhero team that existed on a parallel Earth inhabited by the members of the Justice League after 1985 Crisis on Infinite Earths comic series. However, all the different realities were merged into one, and the JSA became the World War II era predecessor of the modern day Justice League instead. Before we go on, let's read that. Now they're talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths, basically, amalgamating, joining together all the different Earths from the multiverse. And I believe this is what Walter Hamada is planning from the Flash movie onwards. But as I've already said, the movies we're seeing here are probably set after Flashpoint. So with them saying that about Crisis on Infinite Earths in the comics, probably when we see Black Adam, it's after Flashpoint, not pre-Flashpoint. So let's continue this article. And by accident, So where are we? Yeah, so the JSA being featured in Johnson's film will be comprised of DC heroes like Hawkman, Aldis Hodge, Atom Smasher, Noah Centineo, Cyclone Quintessa Swindell, and the enigmatic Dr. Fate, Pierce Brosnan. Most recently, DC has released some new poster art for the film in celebration of the recent Chinese Lunar New Year. Originally released by DC via the Weibo social media platform, the poster features Black Adam with firecrackers in hand. The bottom of the image also contains logos for each of the film's 4 JSA members: Hawkman, Cyclone, Dr. Fate, Atom Smasher. Check out the poster below. I'm assuming with these posters we're getting for Chinese Lunar New Year that this is a way of pleasing China, so we do get a release for the Flash movie at least and Black Adam in China, which will be very important because the DCEU is extremely popular in China, more popular than the MCU. So this is the poster, and it's very, very cool. Again, great artwork, brilliant artwork, love it, and the costume looks all lit, literally lit up, doesn't it? So it's great. While much of the lead up to Black Adam's release has quite rightly been focused on the titular character, the role that the JSA will play both in this film and the future of the DCEU has become an increasing point of intrigue and speculation for avid DC fans. With Johnson's character already referenced in 2019 Shazam, it seems apparent that unlike Matt Reeves' upcoming The Batman, the events of Black Adam will take place within the larger DCEU continuity, which has already seen Ben Affleck's Batman form the Justice League. Exactly how the existence of the JSA fits into this picture remains to be seen, and perhaps more importantly, what implications it will have on future films in the franchise. Very exciting. Of course, the DCEU is currently rumoured to be facing a major continuity shake-up when The Flash also gets released later this year. With that film expected to borrow many elements from the Flashpoint storyline, as such, it is entirely possible that the version of the JSA that fans are introduced to in Black Adam will not necessarily be the same one that is used by the franchise moving forward, and it too may see alternate versions of the team being formed sometime in the future. Either way, avid DC fans will be keen to see what the first big screen incarnation of the Justice Society looks like when Black Adam finally hits theatres this July. Yeah, very exciting, as I've already said, but it looks like these movies will be set after Flash, even the films that come before the Flash movie. Very interesting, and I expect Flashpoint to kind of connect all these Earths together as one franchise, and I personally can't wait to see how all this works out. Peacemaker. James Gunn confirms DC's dumbest villain is DCEU canon, which I'm very, very excited about, by the way. James Gunn confirms a detail from the most recent episode of the HBO Max original Peacemaker that brings an absurd DC Comics villain into the DCEU by Matthew Jasper of Screen Rant. James Gunn has confirmed a detail from the most recent episode of Peacemaker that brings a ridiculous DC Comics villain into DCEU canon. The HBO Max original, itself a spin-off of Gunn's The Suicide Squad, follows John Cena's patriotically deranged special agent on a new mission. The show has been a huge success for the service and has become must-watch viewing for comic book fans as it fleshes out Gunn's own personal corner of the DCEU. Gunn confirmed via Twitter that Peacemaker's recent outing brought an absurd DC Comics villain into the shared DCEU continuity. This week's episode featured a newspaper clipping that claimed Peacemaker had apprehended the D-list comic book villain Kite Man. Gunn followed this up by posting a classic comic panel featuring the character and using a single word, canon, to confirm his place within the DCEU. Now, Kite Man isn't like a very famous or that popular in the DC universe, but I like him. He makes me chuckle, and I'm really happy that Gunn's made him DCEU canon. Not a big deal, not big news. I thought you might be interested in talking about this because I think it's really cool to do little things like this, because this is what Gunn brings to the DCEU. Because it's an element of bringing this in, and one day we may even get a silly HBO Max show, a live action one or an animated one about Kite Man, because I think he does have his admirers and I like him. He makes me chuckle. I think he's cool, and that's just my opinion. And here's the picture of Kite Man. He's calling it canon. Pretty cool, right? You can see that there. Brilliant. So the DC Extended Universe, DC live action, is coming together really nicely. We're fixing things up now. We're making it something that can be fun. It can also be dark. There's going to be something for everyone, and I like that element of it. This isn't the first time Gunn has done this within the confines of Peacemaker, seemingly also confirming the existence of Batmite, an interdimensional imp who stands Batman just a few episodes prior. Gunn's work in comic book movies and TV seems to demonstrate his draw towards the obscure. Often mocked comic characters, whether through taking the Guardians of the Galaxy from unknowns to A-listers, or by compromising his Suicide Squad or seemingly pathetic Z-list villains. With that taken into consideration, and with the character's role as a recurring character in Harley Quinn, Gunn could bring Kite Man into live action for a rematch with Peacemaker in a potential season 2. That would be a lot of fun, because as I say, he's not a huge name, Kite Man, but he's a lot of fun in the comics, and we've seen him in animation as well. I like him. I'm glad James has done that, so that's very, very exciting for me. This is the moulding of something different for the DCEU, because there's going to be lots of different departments of DC live action now, but they're all going to be one universe, as we keep on talking about. So it's important to have the darker, more compelling moments in the DCEU, but it's also great to have the lighter stuff. It's important that kids can enjoy the DCEU as well as adults. The DCEU is about to become a place for everyone, and that's exactly what it should have been in the first place. As we get closer to Flashpoint, I will be talking about Arrowverse a lot more than I normally do, and that's because I know for a fact that Greg Berlanti's Arrowverse will become a huge part of the DC Extended Universe from Flashpoint and beyond. Very exciting if you're a fan of Arrowverse. Now, I'm a big fan of Arrowverse. First 2 seasons of Arrow, first 2 seasons of The Flash. It wasn't for me afterwards, but I still applaud what Greg Berlanti has done with the television franchise. The Flash Season 8 star warns fans to be ready for Reverse Flash's return. Expect to see more of Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, in The Flash Season 8, as one of the stars warns viewers about his big return. By Andy, whose surname I can't pronounce, of Scream Ran. Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, is not done yet with Barry Allen, as one of the Flash Season 8 stars warns fans to be ready for a massive return. While the Arrowverse has featured a lot of iconic DC villains, the one that has probably been featured the most is the Reverse Flash. Since the Flash's inception, Eobard has been instrumental in Barry's overall journey. No matter how many times he is erased from the timeline or defeated, the Reverse Flash still finds a way to come back into the Flash's life, and that's what you want from your iconic villains. You don't want them killed off like Zod in Man of Steel. You want potential for them to return, and that's why they're bringing Zod and Faora back to life in the Flash movie, because we want the potential of Faora and Shannon Zod returning from the Phantom Zone. So this is good. Even as a kid, I always liked the fact that the Master in Doctor Who could come back and fight the Doctor again and again. It's fun. It's a better way of doing it. Killing off iconic villains, for me, isn't much fun, and that's just my personal opinion. Reverse Flash Flash's latest appearance in The Flash came throughout Armageddon, as it was revealed that he was the story's true villain in the whole time. After the events of The Flash Season 7, Eobard found a new way to almost defeat the Scarlet Speedster. This time Eobard made himself the Flash by alternating the past to the point where Barry was almost erased due to his younger self having been killed by Eobard. But once again the Reverse Flash was taken down, and this time the team defeated him by removing his powers. I must admit I was impressed with Armageddon. I thought it was really good, considering the Flash hasn't been great recently, but I think they realised that they've been getting it wrong, and with Armageddon got it a lot more right than they have been recently. While Reverse Flash may be down for now, don't expect him to stay gone for too long. Jesse L. Martin, who portrays Joe West, was recently on The Talk, where he was asked if the villainous speedster is done wreaking havoc in The Flash Season 8. Without giving any spoilers, Martin stressed that those who enjoy Tom Cavanagh's depiction of the Reverse Flash should be ready for a major return, sharing the following. Everybody who is a fan of Tom Cavanagh and his Reverse Flash, get ready. So that's very exciting because I'm a big fan of Tom. Despite Barry getting rid of his Nemesis abilities, it's only a matter of time before he gets them back somehow. Currently, it remains unclear exactly when Reverse Flash is supposed to show up again. However, it makes sense for Season 8 to have him re-emerge sooner rather than later, especially since The Flash Season 9 is close to happening. While there have already been a lot of twists and turns in Eobard's character arc in the past seasons, the latest development is a new challenge in itself. The Flash Season 8 has the opportunity to tell a story with Eobard without his powers and whether or not he's capable of causing chaos without it. And of course, excuse me, but of course, the other version of the Reverse Flash I think is either been or he's going to be in an upcoming episode of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, where apparently, and I mean, go away if you don't want to know this, I think they're going to kill that version off, so that's interesting. I actually prefer the original version of Eobard Fallen and not Tom Cavanagh. I thought Tom Cavanagh was great in Season 1, pretending to be, what's his name now? I forgot his name. Anyway, pretending to be the scientist guy who trained Barry and all of that, right? I liked that element and the twists and turns were great. But as Eobard, I prefer the other actor. And it's a shame, it looks like they're going to kill him off. But as we've already said, he always comes back. Whenever the show does come to an end, it's hard to imagine Reverse Flash not having his speed again, as he's likely to be the final villain Barry takes on. One of the reasons why the Flash has to restore Reverse Flash's powers is because it still has a Season 1 promise it needs to fulfill. As seen in the Flash Season 1 finale, there's a point in time where Eobard and Barry visit the past on the night Nora Allen is murdered, with 2015 Barry seeing his future self. Therefore, the events of the Flash Season 8's Armageddon was always meant to be a temporary setback for the Reverse Flash. And based on Martin's comments, it'll be exciting to see how he returns. It certainly will. I actually forgot about that in the pilot, it's actually 2015, is it 2015 Barry Allen or whatever, that saves young child Barry Allen. So yeah, the Reverse Flash does need to get his powers back. But as I say, as we get closer to the Flash movie, I will reveal more and I will theorise more on how Arrowverse will be connected with the future of the DCEU, and I think you're all going to find it very, very exciting. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection, and I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. Until then, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.